When people do not feel your words, they will not follow your voice. That is the first law of leadership, unseen but undeniable, and it explains why the loudest speaker is rarely the true guide. Most people talk to be heard. Leaders talk to be remembered. Before we dive in, take a second to hit that like button and let us know in the comments where you're listening from. You might be surprised to find someone listening from the same place as you. Introduction. The difference is not in volume, but in precision, clarity, strength, and timing. The architecture of language that creates movement instead of noise. If your voice is not respected, your ideas will not matter. If your words do not hold weight, your presence will not lead anyone. This audiobook begins where influence truly starts with a voice shaped to command respect, without shouting to create action, without performing to speak to the mind while moving the will. You do not need bigger words. You need stronger ones. You do not need to talk more. You need to talk better. In a world saturated with signals, the human nervous system is selective mirror neurons attuned to conviction. The limbic brain tests for safety, and the prefrontal cortex grants attention to what is clear. Your voice is not only sound, it is energy. Every sentence is a vibration that either coheres or disperses, harmonizes or agitates. When your intention is ordered, when thought, breath, and word align, your speech carries a resonance that people experience as steadiness. They may not name the sensation, but they feel it and they follow it. Leadership speech is not ornament. It is architecture. It frames attention, defines edges, and establishes load-bearing truths. Clarity reduces cognitive load, so ideas can travel farther with less friction. Strength compresses a principle to its essence, so it can be remembered under pressure. Timing respects the cadence of human attention, allowing meaning to land, breathe, and integrate. These are not abstract ideals. They are trainable disciplines that alter the physiology of your voice and the psychology of your listener. Through measured breathing, you steady the vagus nerve and lower reactivity. Through intentional wording, you reduce ambiguity and raise trust. Through calibrated pauses, you create space where meaning can echo. Ancient philosophy called this power. Logos, the word that shapes reality. Modern science calls it neuroplasticity, the brain rewiring according to repeated patterns. Spiritual tradition calls it alignment, the coherence between inner state and outer expression. All three point to one conclusion: language is causal. Your words are not merely labels for reality, they are levers on it. Speak in weak, hesitant patterns, and you train yourself and others to doubt. Speak in clean, decisive patterns, and you train the room to organize around purpose. What you repeat, you become. What you embody in tone and timing, others unconsciously mirror. This work is not about theatrics. Grounded voices do not beg for attention. They create it by being worthy of it. They make complex realities graspable without diluting truth. They turn urgency into action without panic, and conviction into calm without coldness. You will learn to move people not by volume, but by gravity, the felt weight that arrives when your message is simpler than fear and stronger than distraction. You will train a voice that carries across daily conversations, high-pressure decisions, and formal leadership moments with the same steady signature: clear, controlled, consequential. The chapters ahead form a discipline. You will own every word you say and retire the language of doubt. You will become understood on the first pass because you will choose clarity over cleverness. You will master breath and tone so your voice does not betray you when the stakes rise. You will speak to move, not to impress, crafting sentences that ignite responsible urgency. You will prefer strong words Too many words, silence to filler standards, over softness, presence, over performance. You will hold your ground. When challenged, aim for brevity, without losing depth and practice, until authority becomes your natural register, not a borrowed pose. This is for those who intend to lead, not one day, but now. If your words do not lead, nothing else will. Strategy without a steady voice becomes noise. Talent without clarity becomes confusion. Morality without courage becomes silence. It starts here with the instrument you carry into every room, your voice. We will refine its edges and deepen its center. We will align its energy to your highest standards, so people hear not just statements, but a structure they can trust. Expect practical drills and philosophical frames, science you can apply, and spirituality you can feel. Expect to discard habits that once protected your ego, but now sabotage your influence. Expect to earn the right to be heard by speaking from a life that matches your language. When you finish, you will not merely sound like a leader. You will be one because your words will carry the coherence of a person who has done the inner work. In a world full of noise, such coherence is rare, unmistakable, and profoundly persuasive. It begins now. Chapter 1. Own every word with full confidence. Leadership begins with the choice to take full responsibility for every word you release into the world. Most people speak halfway, their sentences padded with doubt. I think, maybe, I guess, I'm not sure. Each of these phrases weakens their presence. Every time you speak from uncertainty, you dilute the energy of your message. People do not follow hesitation. They follow conviction. Nobody buys into a message that sounds shaky, and nobody is inspired by a voice that does not even believe itself. Confidence is not loudness, nor is it performance. Confidence is alignment. It is the state in which thought, word, and action mirror one another so precisely that the listener senses integrity without being told. When you own your words, your speech carries the calm authority of someone who has decided. The universe itself mirrors decisiveness. Electrons snap into orbitals, planets trace unwavering paths, stars burn with stable fusion. In this cosmos of precision, uncertainty is static. Certainty is signal. Science affirms this. Neural circuits strengthen not from indecision, but from repeated clarity. When you speak decisively, your prefrontal cortex and limbic system align, calming your nervous system and radiating stability outward. Others sense this stability through mirror neurons. They literally feel steadier when you are steady. Spiritual traditions describe the same reality in other language. Your word is your bond, your vibration, your spell. In ancient scripture it is said, "Let your yes be yes, and your no be no." Weak words fracture energy, strong words unify it. Preparation deepens confidence. When you prepare, you honor your message before delivering it. You think, reflect, rehearse. Leaders do not improvise their values. They enter the room with clarity already built. Because they have tested their ideas in solitude, their words hold weight in public. When you speak from that place, you are not gambling on inspiration. You are drawing from an already lit flame. But words alone do not create trust. When speech and action diverge, the fracture is audible. People sense the dissonance instantly. You say one thing, but live another. Over time, this hollowness erodes confidence not only in others, but in yourself. You begin to doubt your own words because your behavior contradicts them. True confidence is built on congruence, when your daily actions silently affirm your spoken principles. This congruence radiates as presence. When you speak, The room should feel it not because you are loud, but because you are grounded. Others will sense that your words are not merely ideas, but lived truths, tested and embodied. You no longer sound like someone hoping to be believed. You sound like someone who has already proven their message by the life they live. Confidence also requires the courage to stop apologizing for your truth. Too many voices weaken themselves by shrinking their message to make others comfortable. Leaders do not speak to be liked, they speak to be clear. Clarity is respect. It tells the listener exactly where you stand, and paradoxically, it builds more trust than endless attempts to please. A firm truth, even when disagreed with, carries more power than a diluted half-truth designed to offend no one. You must also embrace silence as part of confidence. Weak speakers rush to fill every pause, fearing the discomfort of quiet. But silence is not absence, it is presence amplified. When you deliver a point and allow silence, you give others the space to feel the gravity of your words. That pause becomes an exclamation mark without ink. Leaders who master silence understand that conviction does not need continuous sound to be felt. Consider this in the physics of resonance. A steady vibration organizes surrounding matter into patterns. Sand on a vibrating plate arranges itself into symmetrical shapes when the frequency is clear. Your words work the same way. If you speak with conviction, your listeners' thoughts organize around your clarity. If you speak with doubt, the field remains chaotic. The leader's task is not to speak the most, but to vibrate the clearest. So decide today, no more weak talk. No more hedging your voice with disclaimers. Own your words. Stand behind them. Believe them. When you speak, let it be with the solidity of someone who has earned their stance through reflection and action. Each sentence should sound like it belongs to you. Not borrowed, not begged, but forged from your own alignment. Because once you own your words, you begin to own your space. People notice, they lean in, they remember. And slowly your presence transforms from noise into signal, from uncertainty into guidance. You stop trying to sound like a leader. You become one. And that is where true leadership begins, with words you believe so deeply that the universe itself seems to echo them back. Chapter 2. Speak with clarity, so none misunderstand. Clarity is not decoration. It is the core of communication. When people do not understand you, they cannot trust you. When they cannot trust you, they cannot follow you. It does not matter how brilliant your ideas are, or how noble your intentions may be. If your words are tangled, your influence dissolves before it begins. Leaders are not remembered for complexity. They are remembered for making the complex simple. Most people fail here. They assume clarity will take care of itself, but it never does. They talk fast, they ramble, they skip steps, and they leave trails of confusion in every conversation. Then they wonder why their team is disorganized, why their family misinterprets their intentions, or why their message is forgotten. The answer is simple: unclear words create unclear minds. If people are confused after you speak, it is not their failure, it is yours. Clarity begins in thought. If your mind is scattered, your words will scatter. Before you speak, you must know exactly what you want to communicate. What is the essence of this message? What is the single takeaway? Clarity requires discipline, stripping away every unnecessary detail, every filler word, every flourish designed to impress. If your idea cannot be spoken in one clean sentence, it is not yet ready for others. Psychology reveals why clarity is power. Human attention is a limited resource. The brain burns energy to process information, And when words are vague or overloaded, cognitive fatigue sets in. People tune out. But when you speak with precision, you reduce their cognitive load, making it easy for their minds to integrate your message. Neuroscience confirms clarity builds trust because it lowers mental friction. Spiritual tradition says the same in other terms. Clarity is coherence. Just as a clean glass transmits light without distortion, a clear message transmits truth without interference. When your words are muddied with half-thoughts and hedging, they refract like a broken mirror, scattering attention in 100 directions. But when your words are clean, they become like a beam of light, direct, illuminating, undeniable. This is why the greatest teachers across history spoke in simple, memorable lines. The Buddha. All that we are is the result of what we have thought. Christ, let your yes be yes, and your no be no. Lao Tzu. Silence is a source of great strength. None of these truths required elaborate phrasing. Their strength was clarity, and their clarity made them eternal. Practically, clarity requires 3 disciplines. First, slow down. When you speak too fast, your words blur. Slowness is not weakness. It is control. It shows you are thinking, respecting the listener's mind, giving them time to process. Second, cut away excess. If you can say it in 5 words, do not use 15. Each unnecessary word is static. Third, watch your tone. The same words spoken with an unsure tone will be misunderstood. Tone carries the spirit of the message, and without discipline, it betrays the clarity of your intent. Clarity also means choosing words your listener can actually understand. Leaders do not try to impress with technical jargon. They adapt to the language of their audience. To connect, you must meet people where they are. If you explain something and the room looks puzzled, do not defend, simplify. Clarity is not about proving intelligence. It is about making truth transmissible. And do not fear repetition when it matters. Not endless loops, not rambling circles, but one clear restatement of your point spoken with certainty can anchor it in memory. Say it clean, pause, then say it once more. The pause is as important as the repetition. It allows the meaning to settle like ink sinking into paper. Think of clarity as resonance. In physics, when 2 frequencies align, they amplify each other. When your inner conviction and outer words align, people feel the resonance. The message vibrates in their chest as much as in their mind. They may not remember every phrase, but they will remember the feeling of certainty you carried. That is the mark of clarity. Not that people recall your exact words, but that they walk away, knowing exactly what you meant. To speak with clarity, you must respect your voice as an instrument of order. Each word should be chosen as carefully as a sculptor chooses each stroke of the chisel. Every extra syllable chips away at the form. Every hesitation clouds the shape. Your task is not to say more. It is to say what matters so cleanly that nothing else is needed. Because when you speak with clarity, people lean in. They trust you. They remember you. And in a world drowning in noise, a clear voice is rare, and rare voices are the ones people choose to follow. Better 3. Control your voice before you lead others. Your voice is more than sound. It is the audible expression of your inner world. If your voice shakes, your leadership will not be trusted. You may have the best ideas, the noblest values, the sharpest insights. But if your voice carries instability, hesitation, or scattered energy, people will hesitate to follow. Words carry content, but voice carries presence, and presence is what persuades. Most people are unaware of their voice. They have never truly listened to how they sound. They speak out of habit, not intention. But your tone, your rhythm, your pace, these are mirrors of your state of being. If you are nervous, it leaks into a tremor. If you are angry, it sharpens into harshness. If you are insecure, it thins into weakness. You cannot hide it. People hear who you are long before they consider what you said. Leadership demands that you master this channel. The first step is awareness. Record yourself. Listen carefully. Do you rush? Do you mumble? Do you drown your point in filler? Self-awareness is the foundation of mastery. You cannot control what you cannot observe. Once you hear your patterns, you can begin to reshape them. Breath is the key. Breath is life force prana, in Sanskrit ki, in Taoist teaching. It is not only biology, it is energy. Shallow breathing quickens speech, scatters rhythm, and betrays insecurity. Deep measured breathing grounds. Your voice slows your tempo and stabilizes your presence. Neuroscience confirms this slow breathing regulates the vagus nerve, calming the nervous system, reducing stress hormones, and deepening vocal resonance. When you breathe with depth, your voice naturally acquires gravity. Control also means restraint. You do not need to fill every silence. Weak speakers rush to cover the gap, fearing that silence equals failure. Strong speakers know that silence is part of the voice. A pause after a meaningful statement does more than another sentence. It allows the words to land, to ripple, to echo. Silence is not emptiness, it is power unspoken. Your voice is also shaped by emotional discipline. If your tone rises and falls with every mood, people will never trust you. Inconsistency in tone creates anxiety in others. They cannot predict whether you will remain steady or spiral, so they hold back their trust. Leadership is not about emotional volatility. It is about creating a stable field where others feel safe to follow. You must learn to hold your ground, even when the room shakes. Think of your voice as vibration. Physics teaches that coherent vibration organizes chaos into pattern. The Japanese researcher Masaru Emoto demonstrated how words spoken to water altered its crystalline structure. Harsh words producing distortion, kind words producing symmetry. Whether one accepts the experiment literally or metaphorically, the principle stands. Your voice carries energy that shapes the field around it. To lead you must emit coherence, not chaos. Spiritual teachings echo this truth. In sacred traditions, chants, mantras, and prayers are spoken not for volume, but for vibration. The steady, grounded voice is seen as a channel for the divine. Your leadership voice is no different. When it is trained, it ceases to be about you. It becomes a carrier for truth guidance and alignment. Training your voice is not performance. It is discipline. Practice speaking slowly and with intention in daily conversations. Before entering a meeting or a hard discussion, take 3 steady breaths to anchor your tone. Learn to let your words ride the breath, not outrun it. Practice silence, say your point, and then stop. Listen. Hold the energy without scrambling to explain. Over time, these habits build a voice that is calm, clear, and consistent. People trust such a voice. They feel safe in its steadiness, inspired by its conviction, moved by its resonance. They do not follow because you demanded authority. They follow because your voice proved it. A steady voice tells people, I am not here to impress you. I am here to guide you. Before you ask others to follow, make sure your voice is ready to lead. Not sometimes, not when you feel calm, but every time, in every room, under every pressure. Because once your voice is steady, your leadership becomes real. Chapter 4. Speak to move people into action. Words alone are not leadership. The true measure of communication is whether it creates movement. A leader's voice is not meant to fill the air with pleasant noise. It is meant to pierce through distraction, stir conviction, and propel people into action. If your words do not move someone to think differently, feel differently, or act differently, then you have spoken, but you have not led. Consider how much language evaporates each day. People scroll, skim, and listen passively to a flood of opinions, instructions, and commentary. Most of it vanishes the moment it arrives. What remains? Words that struck deep enough to break inertia. The brain remembers what jolts it awake. The heart remembers what confronts its denial. The body remembers what carried urgency. This is the leader's task, to speak, so that your message cannot be ignored, because it carries the necessary weight to disrupt passivity. Action requires urgency. Psychology teaches that urgency awakens the nervous system, focusing attention and releasing dopamine to prepare the body for motion. But urgency must be grounded in truth, not hype. Manipulation burns quickly and dies. Authentic urgency spoken with clarity reveals what is at stake. If you stay where you are, what will it cost you? If you keep waiting, what will you lose? A leader does not create panic, but reveals consequence. The message becomes a mirror, forcing the listener to see that inaction is the most dangerous choice of all. To speak with such force, you must connect with the listener's unspoken pain. Every person carries silent frustrations, deferred decisions, and hidden excuses. When you name them directly without judgment, but with clarity, you awaken a deeper honesty. People feel as if you have reached inside them and spoken aloud what they feared to admit. That moment is transformative. Truth may sting, but it liberates. Spiritual tradition likens words to fire. Fire illuminates, purifies, and catalyzes change. A leader's words must burn away excuses not by anger, but by heat-focused intensity. Fire can destroy when uncontrolled, but in steady hands, it forges steel. Likewise, your words must ignite willpower without scorching dignity. The balance is critical, direct enough to provoke, respectful enough to preserve. Do not confuse movement with excess talking. Over-explaining drowns the spark you just lit. Say it once, say it cleanly, and let it breathe. One sharp sentence can pierce resistance more effectively than 5 minutes of repetition. Trust the weight of your words. Do not water them down in an attempt to be agreeable. Leaders are not hired to comfort, they are called to confront reality. Energy is contagious. Neuroscience confirms that mirror neurons in the brain echo the emotional tone of those we listen to. If you speak from conviction, listeners feel conviction rise in them. If you speak from hesitation, their doubts multiply. This is why you must speak only what you live. If you demand discipline but live undisciplined, your words ring hollow. But if your life already embodies your message, then each word carries the resonance of proof. People may resist your challenge, but they cannot dismiss your integrity. Action also requires simplicity. Complexity creates hesitation. Clarity creates direction. A leader's message must always end in a clear next step. Start today. Make the call. Write it down. Step forward now. Do not leave people to wonder what to do. Translate your truth into a direction. Translate direction into a demand for decision. That decision becomes momentum. And remember, silence can serve the movement as powerfully as speech. A single strong statement followed by silence forces the mind to wrestle with itself. That inner dialogue is where action takes root. Words plant the seed. Silence waters it. Together, they grow decision. To move people is to respect them. It is to treat them not as passive listeners but as beings capable of transformation. Your task as a leader is not to entertain them with clever sentences, but to awaken them with necessary truth. People do not want more words, they want permission to rise. Your words can be that permission. So speak with urgency, with honesty, with fire. Do not aim to impress. Aim to disrupt. Do not seek applause. Seek action. Because leadership communication is not measured by how well people liked your speech, but by how differently they lived after hearing it. Chapter 5. Use strong words that build respect. Respect is not granted by titles, nor is it purchased with charm. Respect is earned in the very architecture of your speech. Every word you choose either builds credibility or erodes it. Weak words dissolve attention. Strong words command it. A leader understands that language is not casual. It is currency. Spend it wisely, and people will invest their trust. Waste it, and they will walk away. Strong words are not harsh words. Strength is not volume or aggression. It is precision, directness, and clarity. When you say "I will" instead of "I'll try," you send a signal of solidity. When you speak with decision, rather than hedging in maybes and sort-ofs, you cut through ambiguity. People respect language that does not wobble. Certainty is magnetic, because it is rare. Weak talk, on the other hand, trains people to dismiss you. Every "I think this might work," or "sorry, but can I just say," erodes authority before the idea even lands. Such language is often unconscious, a habit of cushioning the ego against rejection. But in trying to protect yourself, you end up weakening the very message you hoped to protect. Respect cannot attach to vagueness. It only anchors to conviction. Psychology confirms this linguistic framing shapes perception. Studies in cognitive science show that assertive, clear language is perceived as more competent and trustworthy, even when the content is identical to softer phrasing. The mind equates decisiveness with leadership. Spiritual traditions echo the same truth. In many cultures, words were considered sacred contracts. To speak was to bind your energy to reality. Weak words dishonor that covenant. Strong words fulfill it. The discipline of strong speech begins with eliminating fillers. Phrases like "you know," "kind of," or "basically" act as static in the signal. Each one reduces the sharpness of your voice. A leader speaks as a sculptor, carves removing excess until only form remains. One clean sentence can shift an entire room. 10 cluttered sentences can drown it. Strong words also require courage. They often reveal truths others would rather avoid. They say, "This is not working." They say, "Here is what must change." Such clarity may not make you popular, but it will make you respected. People do not always like honesty in the moment, but they remember it long after soft lies are forgotten. Strong words endure because they hold truth, and truth has gravity. Strength in speech does not mean rigidity. It does not mean refusing to listen or crushing others with bluntness. True strength is calm, controlled, and steady. It raises standards, not voices. It speaks from thought, not impulse. When you use strong words, you are not bulldozing others. You are standing so firmly in your truth that others feel steadiness just by hearing you. Ancient traditions understood this as the creative power of the word. In the Veda speech, Vak was considered a goddess, the very energy by which reality is called forth. In Hebrew tradition, the word carried the force of creation itself, and God said, "Let there be light." The message is timeless. Language is not just communication, it is creation. Strong words build worlds, weak words dissolve them. Your personal discipline is the soil from which your words grow. If your life is undisciplined, your speech will wobble. If your actions betray your words, your message will feel hollow. But when your conduct matches your speech, your words acquire an authority beyond volume. People hear the difference between talk and truth. Talk is cheap, truth is costly, and people instinctively respect those who pay that cost. To master this skill, practice speaking less, but saying more. Before you speak, ask, does this sentence carry weight? Does it reveal truth? Does it guide someone forward? If not, let silence speak instead. Respect is built not by saying the most, but by saying what matters, and saying it in a way that cannot be ignored. When your words are strong, people stop interrupting. They lean in longer. They carry your sentences with them after the conversation ends. This is how respect is won, not by demanding it, but by earning it through every syllable. So cut the fluff. Remove the apologies that weaken your truth. Replace hesitation with decision. Speak fewer sentences, but let them land like anchors. Respect follows those whose words have backbone. When you master strong speech, you no longer need to ask for authority. Your voice becomes the authority. Chapter 6. Drop weak talk. Embrace power speech. Weak talk is not simply a matter of vocabulary. It is a reflection of inner hesitation. The way you speak reveals how you think, and how you think shapes who you become. Every time you soften your words with, "I'm not sure, but," or "this might sound stupid, but," you quietly train your mind to believe in your own smallness. Weak talk is not harmless. It is self-programming. Over time, it rewires your identity into one that doubts itself before others even have a chance to. Leaders must make a conscious decision to eliminate this habit. You cannot build strong presence on weak foundations. When you drop the language of hesitation, you drop the frequency of fear. Every sentence you speak carries vibration. Either it contracts energy or expands it. Weak talk contracts. It shrinks the room, lowers attention, and signals uncertainty. Power speech expands. It elevates energy, commands attention, and signals trustworthiness. Science supports this. Psycholinguistic research shows that tentative phrases reduce perceived credibility and influence. Listeners unconsciously translate, "I think," as "I don't know," and "maybe" as "I doubt myself." Even when the content of the message is valuable, the wrapper of weak language causes people to discount it. Your nervous system also listens. The words you speak out loud feed back into your brain, strengthening either neural pathways of doubt or pathways of conviction. Spiritual traditions also warn of careless speech. The Upanishads describe speech as a form of sacred fire, one that can illuminate or consume, depending on how it is used. Weak talk is like scattering ashes. Strong talk is like tending flame. Each phrase is either waste or fuel. When you speak with strength, you are not only shaping how others see you, you are shaping your own energy field. Dropping weak talk does not mean becoming harsh or arrogant. It means stripping away the unnecessary apologies and disclaimers that water down truth. You do not need to start with "sorry," but when you are not sorry. You do not need to pad every opinion with "just" or "kind of." These words serve no one. They protect the ego while sabotaging the message. Leadership requires the courage to stand behind your voice without such shields. Power speech is calm and steady. It does not rush. It does not shout. It does not demand approval. It simply delivers what is true with confidence and composure. True strength in speech is not aggression, it is presence. The warrior monk does not scream his convictions. He speaks them once, and the room shifts. The steady drum does not compete with noise. Its rhythm commands attention because it is unshaken. Practical transformation begins with awareness. Start by noticing weak talk in your daily speech. Each time you catch yourself saying, "I guess," or hopefully pause and replace it with certainty, "I will," "This is," or "Here's what I see." At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Your old identity will resist. But every replacement strengthens a new pathway, rewiring your voice into alignment with confidence. Over weeks and months, this practice alters not just how you speak, but how you see yourself. Weak talk wastes time. It spirals into rambling ads, disclaimers, and dilutes impact. Strong speech respects time. It gets to the point, honors attention, and carries the efficiency of truth. People notice the difference. They stop interrupting. They begin to wait for your words, knowing they will matter. In this way, you do not beg for authority. You attract it. The deeper transformation comes when you stop speaking for approval. Weak talk always hides a fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being wrong. But leadership is not about being liked. It is about being clear. When you release the need for universal approval, you free your words. You no longer twist them into safety nets. You let them stand sharp and real. Remember, words are spells. Every phrase you repeat is an incantation, shaping reality in yourself and others. Do not cast spells of doubt. Cast spells of strength. Let your voice affirm conviction, discipline, and presence. When you drop weak talk and embrace power speech, you do more than sound different. You become different. People feel it. You feel it. And the room begins to treat you accordingly. From that moment forward, your leadership deepens, not because you raised your volume, but because you raised your standard. Chapter 7. Hold your ground under pressure. Anyone can sound confident when the room is silent and friendly. The true test of leadership arrives when resistance appears, when your words are questioned, your decisions are challenged, or your presence is provoked. In those moments, the strength of your voice is revealed. Do you hold your ground, or do you fold into the doubt of others? Leadership is not about sounding sure when it is easy. It is about remaining steady when it is not. Most people shrink at the first sign of pushback. They soften their words, backpedal on their convictions, or pile on unnecessary explanations to win approval. In doing so, they betray their own message. They show that their voice is negotiable, that their presence bends under pressure. But a leader knows that clarity is not up for auction. If the truth matters, it must remain true even in discomfort. Philosophers called this equanimity, the ability to remain the same in storm and in calm. Stoics taught that external chaos should never dictate inner order. When the crowd resists, when colleagues roll their eyes, when opponents raise their voices, you must stay anchored. Your speech must still carry the same tone, the same clarity, the same conviction it carried in silence. This steadiness becomes a lighthouse for others. In turbulent seas, people follow what does not flinch. Science affirms the power of steadiness. Studies on emotional contagion show that groups unconsciously synchronize with the most stable nervous system in the room. If you remain grounded while others escalate, their physiology begins to regulate around you. Your calm voice literally lowers the stress hormones of those listening. This is why real leaders are trusted under pressure. Their steadiness becomes the nervous system of the group. Spiritually holding your ground is resonance with truth itself. Truth does not panic. The mountain does not tremble because the wind howls. The river does not change direction because the stones resist. A leader becomes such a presence, firm, consistent, immovable in values. Not stubborn, not arrogant, but rooted. Pressure only reveals what was already planted within. If your convictions are shallow, they will wash away. If they are deep, they will anchor you. This does not mean refusing to listen. Holding ground is not about stubborn deafness. It is about stability. You can listen, adjust, or refine, but you do not abandon your center. People can sense the difference. They know when you are learning versus when you are collapsing. Respect grows not from always being right, but from always being rooted. Practical mastery begins in small moments. When someone challenges you, resist the urge to speed up your words. Keep your pace. Hold your tone steady. If your hands shake, slow your breathing. Silence, when held without fear, communicates more authority than 1,000 defensive arguments. The person who refuses to be rattled earns trust, even from their critics. Energy reveals itself in subtle ways. Sometimes pressure does not arrive as open conflict, but as small dismissals, a raised eyebrow, a smirk, a cutting remark. These are tests. They are invitations to waver. Do not accept them. Do not mirror sarcasm with sarcasm or tension with panic. Remain composed. Show that your message is not fragile. Over time, this steadiness transforms your reputation. People begin to believe in your reliability, not just your words. They know that when tension rises, you will not collapse into fear. This trust is the bedrock of leadership. Followers do not expect perfection. They expect presence. They do not need you to control the storm. They need you to stay unmoved within it. So train yourself in pressure. Do not avoid disagreement, use it as a forge. Each time you remain calm while others escalate, you strengthen your inner steel. Each time you stand firm in clarity, rather than softening into comfort, you deepen respect. Over months and years, this becomes your natural state, unshakable, steady, trusted. In the end, leadership is not tested in silence, but in noise. Anyone can speak well when supported. Only the grounded voice carries power when opposed. Hold your ground, and people will not only hear your words, they will begin to believe in you. Chapter 8. Make your point without dragging it. The strength of your leadership is not measured by how long you speak, but by how cleanly you deliver what matters. Weak communicators drown their message in circles of explanation, hoping that more words will equal more understanding. Strong communicators do the opposite. They strip away excess until only essence remains. A leader's words should cut through distraction like a blade, sharp, clean, undeniable. People's attention is limited and fragile. Modern neuroscience shows that the human brain can only hold a few thoughts in working memory at once. Every extra sentence risks scattering focus. Every detour dilutes the point. The more words you add, the greater the chance the core message will be lost. This is why over-explaining creates confusion instead of clarity. The listener stops tracking the purpose and begins grasping at fragments. By the time you finish, they no longer remember what mattered. Rambling is not just inefficient, it signals doubt. Over-explaining is often an unconscious attempt to control how others receive your message. You pile on details because you fear being misunderstood, but the excess creates the very misunderstanding you sought to avoid. Clarity requires courage. The courage to trust that one clean statement is enough. Say it once, say it well, and let it stand. Spiritually, this is the principle of simplicity. Truth does not need adornment. A flame does not need explanation to prove it burns. The Tao teaches that the highest wisdom appears simple. Great teachers throughout history spoke in brief, potent lines that carried through centuries. Their brevity was not poverty, it was power. They respected silence enough to leave space for the words to echo. Practical mastery means disciplining your speech. Before speaking, ask yourself, what is the essence of what I want to say? Deliver only that. If your point requires support, give one clear example, not 5. Then stop. Let silence carry the weight of what you said. Do not circle back. Do not soften the edges. Do not dilute with extra commentary. The strongest voices are remembered because they knew when to stop. This discipline is not coldness. It is respect. Respect for your listener's time. Respect for their mind. Respect for the gravity of your own words. A sharp, concise statement communicates, I have thought about this. I know what matters. I trust you to understand. People feel this respect and they repay it with attention. Action is born from clarity, not from volume. When you make your point briefly, listeners know exactly what to do next. When you drag your point, they hesitate. The law of energy applies. Clutter disperses force. Focus channels it. A river that spreads wide becomes a swamp. A river that stays narrow carves valleys through stone. Your words must be like that river, direct, focused, unstoppable. So discipline yourself. Speak less, but mean more. Cut the rambling. Eliminate the padding. Say what matters and stop. The silence that follows will do more work than any extra sentence could. Leaders do not fear brevity. They wield it. One sentence delivered with strength can outlast 1,000 spoken in circles. The next time you open your mouth, remember your goal is not to fill time, it is to shape it. Make your point with clarity, deliver it with conviction, and then step back. Let the message breathe, let it settle, let it grow in the mind of your listener. That is how leaders speak. Chapter 9. Speak to be remembered, not just heard. Talking is common. Billions of words are spoken every day, most of which vanish into the air as quickly as they were uttered. Leadership demands more than noise, it demands memory. To lead, your words must not only reach the ear, they must take root in the mind and echo in the heart. The measure of your voice is not that people heard you, but that they remember you. Why are some words remembered while others fade? Neuroscience gives us the answer. Memory is encoded by emotion and clarity. When words stir, feeling, the brain releases neurotransmitters that fix the moment into long-term storage. When words are simple and vivid, they are easy to recall and repeat. This is why people may forget a lecture but carry a single sentence for a lifetime. Strong language plus emotional resonance equals enduring memory. Consider the words of history's great leaders. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. I have a dream. Be the change you wish to see in the world. None of these lines are complex. They are sharp, rhythmic, emotionally charged, and repeatable. They survive because they were built to live beyond the moment. Spiritual traditions affirm the same truth. Sacred texts were preserved orally for centuries before being written. Their survival depended on phrasing that was memorable, poetic rhythm, symbolic imagery, and distilled wisdom. In this way, memory was not only psychological, but spiritual, a truth so essential it refused to be forgotten. Leaders must learn to speak with this same timelessness, crafting words that carry weight beyond the room in which they are spoken. To achieve this, you must first clarify your conviction. People remember certainty, not confusion. If you speak hesitantly, your message will fade with the moment. But if you speak from lived experience, from scars and victories, your words vibrate with authenticity. Listeners may not recall every detail, but they will not forget the sense that you meant what you said. Second, you must simplify. Complexity kills memory. Do not try to impress with elaborate phrasing. Instead, choose language so direct that anyone can repeat it. A message is remembered when it can be carried from one person to another. If they cannot share it, it will not spread. A memorable leader crafts sentences designed to travel. Third, connect your words to identity and future. People remember what speaks to their becoming, not their comfort. If your words awaken their hidden strength, confront their excuses, or paint a vision of who they could be, the message embeds itself in their psyche. It becomes not just something they heard, it becomes something they live with. Your tone also determines memory. Say the right words with the wrong energy, and they will be forgotten. Say simple words with conviction, rhythm, and pause, and they will echo. Think of your voice as music. A melody lingers, not because of how many notes it carries, but because of how those notes are arranged and delivered. Leadership speech is no different. In practice, this means cutting shallow talk. Do not speak just to react. Do not waste sentences, proving your intelligence. Every time you open your mouth, ask yourself, will these words live beyond this moment? If the answer is no, remain silent. Let your words be rare, but let them be unforgettable. Because being remembered is not about entertainment, it is about elevation. It is not about applause, it is about impact. People will not recall everything you said, but they will recall if you made them stop, think, and move. They will remember if your words gave them a standard to rise to. They will remember if you gave them courage to face themselves. So discipline your speech until every sentence carries the possibility of memory. Speak only what matters. Deliver it with conviction. End with silence. Let the words echo in the listener's own thoughts, where they transform into reminders, mantras, and decisions. To be heard is temporary. To be remembered is eternal. Speak like someone who knows the difference. Chapter 10. Train your voice daily until it leads naturally. Great leaders are not born with commanding voices, they forge them. Just as a musician must practice scales, or an athlete must condition their body, a leader must discipline their voice every single day. You cannot expect to sound powerful in moments of pressure if you have not rehearsed in moments of quiet. Leadership presence is not summoned by chance. It is built through repetition. Most people imagine their voice is fixed and unchangeable trait. Science disagrees. Neuroplasticity shows that the brain rewires through practice, and your voice is no exception. The tone you use, the rhythm you fall into, the strength or weakness you convey, these are neural patterns. With daily awareness, you can reprogram them. Every conversation becomes training. Every phone call, every casual discussion, every feedback session is an opportunity to sharpen your instrument. Discipline begins with awareness. Pay attention to your pace, tone, and choice of words. Do you rush? Do you fill silence with nervous chatter? Do you soften your convictions with hedging phrases? Each habit you notice is a chance to refine. The goal is not artificial polish, but authentic control. The more you notice, the more you shape. Breath is your foundation. Practice breathing deeply before speaking. Slow, steady, deliberate. Imagine your words riding on breath rather than forcing themselves out of it. This anchors your tone in calmness. Spiritually, breath is life force. Yogic traditions call it prana, Taoists call it ki. When you master your breath, your words stop scattering energy and begin transmitting strength. Training also means embracing silence. Do not fear pauses. Practice ending your sentences cleanly and letting stillness do its work. Silence is not a gap to be feared, but a presence to be wielded. It tells people I am in control of the space. I do not need to scramble for approval. In that stillness, Your words settle deeper than noise ever could. Your daily speech habits carve grooves into your presence. If you speak casually with hesitation, those grooves deepen, and under stress, your voice will default to weakness. If you speak with intention even in casual moments, those grooves strengthen confidence, and under stress, your voice will hold steady. Every moment is rehearsal for the one that counts. Spiritual traditions knew this. Monks repeat chants not for performance but for discipline, shaping the tongue, the breath, the vibration of the body, until truth becomes second nature. Your daily voice training serves the same purpose. When the decisive moment comes, you will not need to try to sound like a leader. You will simply sound like yourself, refined, steady, trustworthy. And this training builds more than tone. It builds identity. The more you discipline your words, the more you see yourself as someone worth listening to. That inner belief radiates outward. Listeners may not consciously know why they trust you, but they feel it in the alignment of your tone and message. So practice daily, not occasionally, not only before the big meeting, every day. Speak with awareness, breathe with intention, and let silence become your ally. Over time, your voice stops being something you manage. It becomes who you are. You no longer try to lead. You embody leadership. That is the final goal of training, to carry a voice so natural, so disciplined, so steady, that people follow, not because you asked them to, but because they cannot help but trust the presence behind your words. Chapter 11. Align words with actions. The most eloquent speech collapses if the life behind it does not match. People listen less to what you say and more to whether you embody it. When words and actions diverge, the fracture is audible. Even if no one names it, they feel it. A leader who preaches discipline but lives in disorder cannot inspire trust. A leader who calls for courage but hides in fear cannot spark bravery. Alignment is the hidden root of credibility. Integrity is not perfection. It is consistency. It is the steady resonance between inner values, spoken words, and visible behavior. Psychology calls this congruence, when the signals of mind, body, and language match. Spiritual traditions describe the same reality as harmony of being, when the inner vibration is one with the outer expression. In physics, it is coherence waves, moving in sync, amplifying one another, instead of canceling out. The principle is universal alignment, creates power. When your words and actions align, you emit a signal people trust. They may not agree with you, but they cannot deny the truth of your presence. When you say, "I will," and then you do, your speech becomes a covenant. Each fulfilled word strengthens invisible threads of respect. Over time, people begin to believe you not because of rhetoric, but because of rhythm. You say, you act, you deliver. Trust grows naturally in that cycle. But when speech and action separate, the opposite occurs. Every broken promise fractures your credibility. Every contradiction teaches people to discount your voice. Worse, you begin to doubt yourself. You hear your own words and remember your own failures. This internal fracture weakens your tone, shakes your confidence, and erodes presence. The energy of inconsistency cannot be hidden. It bleeds into the sound of your voice. Spiritual science shows why. The human energy field registers dissonance. Just as a musical note out of tune feels uncomfortable, a voice misaligned with action creates unease. People may not rationally know why they hesitate, but they sense the discord. Alignment restores harmony. When who you are and what you say match, your energy radiates authenticity. It is this resonance that people describe as presence. To cultivate alignment, practice ruthless honesty with yourself. Do not promise what you will not do. Do not speak values you are unwilling to live. If you stumble, acknowledge it openly instead of pretending otherwise. This humility strengthens trust because it shows that even in imperfection, you are committed to coherence. A faltering but honest voice inspires more than a polished but hollow one. Practical steps build this discipline. If you commit to deadlines, meet them. If you call for discipline, show it in your daily habits. If you urge resilience, demonstrate it when you fail. Do not ask others to climb mountains you yourself refuse to step on. The leader walks first. Only then do others follow. Philosophers have long taught this principle. Confucius said, "The superior man is modest in speech but exceeds in action." In other words, let your deeds carry more weight than your declarations. Your voice will then be amplified by the echo of your life. Alignment does not mean rigidity. It means integrity. You can adapt, evolve, and admit mistakes, but even in change, your consistency lies in being real. People forgive error more easily than they forgive hypocrisy. To stay aligned, root yourself, not in the need to appear flawless, but in the commitment to remain authentic. When you align words and actions, your leadership stops being a performance. It becomes a transmission. People follow, not because you spoke beautifully, but because your life itself became proof. And that proof carries a power no speech can counterfeit. Chapter 12. Master the power of silence. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill the air with words, afraid that quiet will expose them. Yet true leaders understand that silence is not emptiness, it is presence. A pause can speak louder than a sentence. A breath held with intention can carry more weight than a paragraph. Silence, when mastered, becomes one of the most powerful tools in communication and leadership. Why? Because silence creates space for meaning. Neuroscience reveals that the brain encodes information more deeply during pauses. Just as muscles grow, not during lifting, but in the space of rest, ideas settle in the mind during moments of quiet. When you stop speaking after a strong statement, you give listeners time to absorb, to reflect, to internalize. Without that pause, your words skim across the surface and disappear. With it, they sink into the depths of memory. Spiritual traditions also honor silence as sacred. In meditation, silence is not absence but fullness. The mind quiets and deeper truths emerge. In mystical teachings, silence is described as the language of the soul. Ancient sages insisted that wisdom speaks most clearly when words fall away. For a leader to wield silence is to signal mastery of self. You are not desperate for approval, not scrambling to be heard. You are grounded enough to let stillness carry your presence. Silence is also strength in restraint. The world is filled with noise, arguments, opinions, endless chatter. Those who can withhold words demonstrate discipline. They prove that their voice is not reactive, but deliberate. When you do speak, people listen more closely because your silence has trained them to expect intention. In practical terms, silence works in 3 ways. First, before you speak, pausing gives you clarity, ensuring your words are chosen, not spilled. Second, during speech, strategic pauses add rhythm like rests in music that make the notes more beautiful. Third, after speaking, holding silence anchors your message, letting it echo without interruption. But silence is not avoidance. It is not passive withdrawal. It is active presence. If silence becomes an excuse to retreat from truth, it weakens you. If silence is used to heighten the gravity of truth already spoken, it strengthens you. The difference lies in intention. Energy science teaches that silence is also a transmitter. In the absence of words, your energy field speaks more clearly. Your posture, your breath, your gaze all become amplified. People feel your steadiness or your turmoil, depending on the discipline of your inner state. Thus, silence forces you to confront yourself. If you are centered, your silence radiates peace. If you are insecure, your silence leaks fear. Training silence is therefore training presence. Leaders who master silence do not compete for attention. They command it by withholding. In a room of loud voices, the one who waits then speaks with calm clarity, shifts the atmosphere. People lean in curious attentive. This is the paradox of silence. By saying less, you are heard more. So begin practicing silence. Pause before answering. Allow space after key sentences. Resist the urge to rush into every gap. Let stillness carry your strength. Over time, you will discover that silence is not your enemy, but your ally, the invisible force that turns words into wisdom and presence into power. Chapter 13. Speak with urgency and purpose. Words can soothe, explain, and inspire, but sometimes their true power lies in creating movement. A leader's voice must not only inform, but ignite. To speak with urgency is not to shout in panic, but to press upon the moment with such clarity that hesitation becomes impossible. Purpose without urgency dies in delay. Urgency without purpose burns out in chaos. Combined, they awaken transformation. Why does urgency matter? Psychology shows that human beings are wired to resist change until the cost of staying the same outweighs the cost of moving forward. Urgency tips this balance. It shakes people from inertia and demands a decision. When your voice carries urgency, you signal, "This matters now, not tomorrow." This choice is not optional, but essential. Without urgency, even the best advice drifts into someday. With urgency, action begins today. But urgency must be clean. It is not frenzy or fear-mongering. It is not manipulation. True urgency is rooted in reality, pointing clearly to the stakes of inaction. What is at risk if the team delays? What will be lost if the individual refuses to decide? Nature itself teaches this law. Seasons do not wait. A seed not planted in spring cannot be harvested in autumn. Delay has consequences, and urgency names them without apology. Purpose gives urgency, direction. A fire without aim destroys. A fire with intention illuminates. Your urgency must always serve a higher purpose, guiding people toward growth, truth, and alignment. Otherwise, urgency becomes noise. When people feel that your urgency comes not from ego, but from vision, they lean in. They may resist at first, but they know your pressure is for their progress. Spiritually, urgency mirrors the law of impermanence. Time is fleeting. Life is fragile, opportunities pass. The soul knows that waiting forever is a form of self-betrayal. Every sacred text echoes the same reminder. Now is the appointed time. To speak with urgency is to awaken people to the present moment where all transformation begins. Practically, urgency is conveyed through tone and precision. Short, strong sentences strike harder than long explanations. Do it today. Start now. This cannot wait. These phrases bypass hesitation. Your voice becomes a catalyst, breaking the spell of delay. Neuroscience supports this concise directive language, activates decision-making regions of the brain faster than vague, sprawling speech. Yet urgency must be balanced with calm. If your tone quivers with anxiety, you infect others with panic. If it is steady but firm, you inspire action with confidence. The energy must say, I am not afraid, but I will not let you waste time. This balance of pressure and poise distinguishes leadership urgency from mere desperation. Every leader must practice urgency in daily life. Do not wait for grand speeches. In small interactions, create momentum. Replace someday with now. Replace maybe later with, let's begin. Over time, your presence itself will radiate a sense that delay is costly and movement is natural. Remember, urgency is the spark, purpose is the flame. Together, they turn words into turning points, conversations into commitments, and moments into milestones. Speak as if time matters, because it does. Chapter 14. Build trust through transparency and vulnerability. Powerful voices are not only steady and strong, they are also real. In a world filled with polished facades and rehearsed speeches, authenticity cuts deeper than perfection. People do not trust leaders who sound flawless. They trust leaders who sound human. To build enduring influence, your voice must carry transparency, and at times, the courage to be vulnerable. Transparency means clarity without disguise. It is the willingness to say what is true, even when it is uncomfortable. Teams, communities, and individuals can sense when something is hidden. Energy science tells us that incongruence radiates tension when your words mask reality. The field around you feels tight and mistrustful. But when you speak truth plainly, even difficult truth, the field relaxes. People may not like what they hear, but they respect that they can trust it. Vulnerability, on the other hand, is not weakness. It is strength, tempered with honesty. It is the courage to admit imperfection, to say, I don't know, or I was wrong, without collapsing in authority. Psychology calls this authentic confidence. It demonstrates that your leadership is not built on an illusion of invulnerability, but on resilience, adaptability, and humility. Think of the leaders you admire most. Chances are, their stories of failure and struggle moved you as much as their victories. Why? Because human beings connect more deeply through shared wounds than through polished success. A leader who hides every scar appears untouchable and therefore unreachable. A leader who shares scars with wisdom says, I am human like you. If I can rise, so can you. That connection builds trust faster than any flawless performance. Spiritual traditions echo this truth. The Japanese philosophy of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with veins of gold, making the cracks part of the beauty. Likewise, vulnerability does not diminish your voice. It gilds it with authenticity. It tells people that strength and imperfection can coexist and that their own flaws do not disqualify them from greatness. Practically, transparency and vulnerability must be used with wisdom. Not every detail belongs in every room. Oversharing can dilute presence. The key is discernment. Share enough truth to strengthen trust, but always tie your openness to purpose. If you reveal a failure, also reveal the lesson. If you admit uncertainty, also show your commitment to seeking clarity. Vulnerability without direction becomes indulgence. Vulnerability with purpose becomes leadership. Transparency also accelerates decision-making. When people know you will speak plainly, they stop second-guessing. They no longer waste energy deciphering hidden meanings or wondering about your motives. This clarity sharpens collective focus. What you say is what you mean, and what you mean is what you live. That simplicity creates safety, and safety breeds loyalty. Energy follows truth. When you speak transparently, your voice carries a vibration of integrity that resonates in the listener's nervous system. They feel grounded by your steadiness, even if your words are challenging. When you add vulnerability, they feel connected to your humanity. Together, these qualities transform authority into trust. So dare to be clear. Dare to be real. Dare to speak not only from your strengths, but from your struggles. Let your transparency cut through confusion, and let your vulnerability build bridges. For, in a world that mistrusts the artificial, the voice that dares to be human will always be remembered as the one that led. Chapter 15. Become a voice that transcends time. Every conversation you have is temporary, yet the echo of your voice can extend far beyond the moment. To become a leader whose words outlive circumstances, you must craft a voice that transcends time. This means speaking in ways that do not merely address immediate problems, but awaken principles, truths, and energies that remain relevant across generations. Psychology shows us that the brain favors stories and metaphors because they activate multiple regions at once: emotion, memory, and imagination. When you speak in stories instead of sterile instructions, you inscribe your message not only into memory, but into identity. People do not just recall what you said. They carry the imagery with them, applying it to their own struggles and victories. A story becomes timeless because it adapts itself to new listeners across new eras. Science echoes this principle through resonance. When a sound matches the natural frequency of an object, it amplifies without effort. Your words, when aligned with universal truths, such as courage, discipline, love, growth, resonate with the human spirit itself. They vibrate in people regardless of culture, age, or background. A leader who speaks with universal resonance leaves an imprint beyond the boundaries of their immediate context. Spiritually timeless voices are those that harmonize with cosmic laws. Ancient scriptures endure not because of eloquence alone, but because they embody eternal principles. As you sow, so shall you reap. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Such truths do not expire. Leaders who echo them in their own words become vessels of wisdom greater than themselves. Their voice becomes a continuation of an eternal current. To build a timeless voice, discipline your language to focus on essence rather than excess. Speak less about trends and more about truths, less about immediate approval and more about enduring impact. Ask yourself, will these words matter in a year, in 10 years, in a lifetime? If the answer is no, refine until they do. Equally important is the vibration behind your words. Energy is felt as much as language is heard. A calm, steady, grounded voice carries permanence. A frantic, scattered voice dissolves into the air. When your presence embodies stability, your words are remembered not only for content, but for the atmosphere they carried. People may forget your exact phrasing, but they will recall the state of being you left them with. Practically practice distillation. Every great teacher, from philosophers to scientists to sages, became memorable by reducing complexity into essence. Einstein said, "Everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." That is timeless speech, clarity, without compromise. Finally, realize that becoming a timeless voice is not about fame, but about service. The measure of your words is not how many hear them in the moment, but how many lives are shifted long after you are gone. True leadership is not applause, it is legacy. And legacy is built one disciplined word, one authentic tone, one aligned truth at a time. When your voice carries conviction, clarity, urgency, transparency, and resonance with universal law, it no longer belongs only to you. It becomes part of something eternal, an energy that continues to move through others long after you have fallen silent. That is the ultimate destiny of a leader's voice, not to fade with the noise of the world, but to endure as a steady call across time. Conclusion. The eternal call of the leader's voice. The journey of this audiobook has taken us through the many dimensions of voice, confidence, clarity, alignment, silence, urgency, transparency, and timelessness. Yet all of these qualities converge into one truth. Your voice is not merely sound, it is energy. It is the living extension of your mind, heart, and spirit. When you speak, you are not just using words, you are transmitting presence. If people do not feel your words, they will not follow your voice. This principle has echoed since the introduction, and it remains the anchor of leadership communication. The science of neuroplasticity shows us that every time you speak with intention, you carve new pathways in your brain, reshaping your identity. The wisdom of philosophy reminds us that words without integrity are mere noise. The insight of spiritual science reveals that your voice vibrates into the unseen, altering the energy fields of those who hear you. Speech, therefore, is not casual, it is creation. A leader's responsibility is not to impress, but to impact, not to entertain, but to elevate. Every word has the power to either scatter, or to focus, to weaken, or to strengthen, to confuse, or to clarify. When your words align with truth, when your tone is steady, when your silence carries weight, you stop being just another voice in the crowd. You become a presence that guides. And presence is the essence of leadership. Presence is the invisible authority that makes people lean in when you speak. It is the calm steadiness that reassures others in chaos. It is the conviction that says without words, this person can be trusted. That presence is not given by titles or positions. It is built in the crucible of discipline, silence, alignment, and daily practice. Remember, your leadership does not begin when people applaud you. It begins when people remember you. They may forget your sentences, but they will remember how you made them feel, challenged, inspired, awakened, grounded. They will remember the clarity you brought to their confusion, the courage you called forth from their hesitation, the urgency you instilled in their delay. That is the true legacy of your voice. So as you step into the world, after these chapters, carry this final reminder: every conversation is practice. Every word is energy. Every silence is power. Speak less to be liked and more to be real. Speak not for applause, but for alignment. Speak as though your words are planting seeds in eternity, because they are. When your voice becomes the echo of your truth, the rhythm of your discipline, and the resonance of your spirit, it transcends the boundaries of time. You stop speaking like someone trying to be a leader, and you begin to speak as one who already is. And in that moment, your voice no longer belongs only to you. It belongs to the legacy of human growth, to the current of universal law, to the eternal call that awakens others to rise. The world is full of noise. Be the voice that lasts. Thank you for listening with an open mind and heart. If a certain chapter or insight resonated most with you, share it in the comments. You might help someone else find exactly what they need today. Keep this book saved so you can return to its words whenever life calls for reflection or guidance. I wish you health, peace, and wisdom in every step you take.